Hey, everybody. Welcome to Church History for Chumps. This is John Simon. I'm here with my esteemed guest, Mr. Taylor Treadway.
I'm here with my esteemed guest, Mr. John Simon.
Aw. And welcome to CHUMP TALK. This is our bonus episode we do monthly, last Friday of every month. And it's typically when we just kind of talk about whatever we want.
Whatever we want.
Yeah, this is anarchy. This is the anarchy.
It's chaos.
Episodes. Yeah, this is great. Yeah, how you doing, man? It's been about 12 hours since I talked to you last, which is impressive since we don't live close at all.
I drove to Saddleback.
Nice.
For that event again.
Was it a staff meeting? Because you work for Saddleback?
No, I was protesting to women pastors.
Oh, just kidding.
No, it was a youth pastor conference. It was kind of cool. I saw a bunch of the Tucson guys.
That's awesome.
So a bunch of people I used to do ministry with all rolled out and got to say hey to them. And
did you bump into anyone impressive of a meaningful stature?
Oh, dude, I'm so glad. I was totally already forgotten. I texted John Simon today, listeners. I said, I totally just talked with Sean McDowell for like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And he was just there. And what's so funny is I'm like blind, as I think people know. My eyes is no good, Cap.
Right.
And
dude, pretty soon our listener is going to be able to do a full medical report of everything Taylor has. It's like gout, degenerative eye disease. Yeah, I was going to say a mean one, but no.
I know what you were going to say.
Albinism.
Yeah. I thought you were going to say like mentally slow.
Leprosy.
Anyway, down the hall, there's a group of people packing up a booth. And my coworker, Brianna, goes, Taylor, is that Sean McDowell down there? And I'm like, which one? And she goes, look, he's packing up a box of books. And I look at her and say, Bri, why would Sean McDowell be here?
Gosh.
And why would he be packing up a box of books? Sure enough, it was him. So I had to apologize. So, I told him about you guys. I said, hey, the listeners, big fans of your book. We loved your book.
Yeah, his book basically spoon-fed us all the way through the history of the apostles, which was
I told him, I
fun.
said, your research was so good.
Yeah.
All your primary sources were just like a home run for us. Like, it's very easy because of that. And he's just laughing. He's like, I know 75% of the hours I put into that thing were from the research.
Man, good for him, dude. That's awesome. Did you try to ham him up a little bit about getting back on the show or getting on the show?
I had said, hey, bro, I had emailed you a while back. I said, hey, I had to shoot my shot. And he's like, I wish I could go on to every one of those invitations. And I'm sorry. And I was like, no.
Every one of those like we're some commoner podcast, dude.
That's right.
Yeah,
there's dozens of us.
That's right. We rise to the top of the 8 or 9 podcasts.
That was cool. Now, listeners, I did ask him a lot of those that were with us in the Apostle series. You remember we had that repeating motif of Apostle shows up, conflict introduced, wife introduced, and or conflict solved, wife converted, and then leader converts, and then people follow. I told him, this gets even repeated in the sources and the stories for the barbarian missions. And I said, so I have to ask, like, why is that such a repeated motif? And I am sad to say, listeners, he said, I don't know, but that's a great question.
Gosh dang it, Sean McDowell. If anyone was supposed to know the answer to that.
I know. I'm actually guessing because
I got really excited when you were telling me.
Dude, I asked another patristic expert too, Dr. Will Haidt. I asked him that same question and he said he didn't know. I don't think there's an answer. I tell you what, if you're a smart cookie and you're listening, maybe that can be your PhD project.
Or just tell us and we can make it our PhD project.
Wow.
We'll quote you.
That's how that works.
Quote Jeff
I'm
in
Dr.
Spotify
John.
comments. I can reference that. Yeah, I can make that
Hey,
MLA
ChatGPT,
format.
write me a Turabian citation for Jeff from the Spotify comments.
Make it look official.
Yeah.
Oh man. So yeah, so today guys, we got a fun topic. We kind of were throwing around some ideas earlier, and this is a topic that I think I feel weird because I feel like deconstruction feels like a dated term. Like I feel like it was really big in like I don't know, like 2017 or something. I feel like
I
now,
mean,
I don't know.
even post COVID,
Yeah, that's
it
fair.
was.
That's fair. I feel like we're just jumping from hot buttons to hot buttons. So, last time we did Christian nationalism, now we're doing deconstruction. But, it's an interesting one. Taylor and I both have a lot of experience working in ministry in both church and non-church settings. So, it's a really important idea, I think, to track kind of the trajectory of what yeah, kind of where our culture is at and
Yeah.
where people are at who were raised in the church is really the question of it. So I think it's a really interesting topic to explore. So yeah, I'm excited. Here we go.
I have a story that serves as an intro.
Do it.
This might be pure chaos. I mean, it's already pure chaos. It's chump talk. But okay,
Exactly.
so there's kind of two main groups of pastors that meet in Tucson, dear listeners, because there's like 7 Christians. So there's not that many. And
There's
there's
so
the
much
pastor
Tucson
group.
lore in our in
I
our
know,
stuff.
but it's
Gotta love it.
unfortunate, but half our stories revolve around this. So you guys have heard about the one group that me and Tom and John would go and hang out with.
Gospel
We've told you about
Coalition.
that.
Yep.
But then there was another group led by Pastor Glenn who was like, if Tucson has a bishop,
He's up there. Yeah.
Glenn Elliott is the bishop of Tucson. Anyway, great guy, super faithful servant.
Is this TMA?
Yeah.
Okay.
Wait, TMA?
Is it Tucson Ministry Alliance?
No, I think so. I don't remember the name. I don't
Well,
know.
I
Anyway,
figured if you're
Pastor
gonna
Glenn,
all right, never mind.
Pastor, I don't remember the name. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I thought you were gonna say it.
I've gotten almost a whole MDiv since then. Okay, it's been a minute.
Okay, all right.
All right. So anyway, Pastor Glenn had a second group,
Mhm.
and in this group, he would give guest speakers. Now, there was a guest speaker that he seemed like he had an interesting ministry. So he was a pastor who had stepped away from the pulpit and started this sort of parachurch healing for people deconstructing.
Okay. Yeah.
And Pastor Glenn had invited him to come and talk to us about people that were deconstructing. And I'm sitting there eating my free catered Chipotle or whatever, probably, talking about Mars Hill or something back then, right?
Mhm.
And then he starts, and my little alarms go off immediately.
Yeah.
There's just like something. And I have this internal dialogue with me for like the next 20 minutes of like, Taylor, give him the benefit of the doubt.
Oh gosh.
Just because he's using this term deconstructing doesn't mean anything.
Was this pre-emotional revolution, Taylor, or was this you in your
No, this was
feral foaming at the mouth days?
I was much more emotionally healthy
Okay.
then.
Okay. We all have them, listener. It's not just Taylor. I just, he knew exactly what I was asking.
Yeah. It's a fair question for this.
Mhm.
I was mature in the Lord, we should say.
Dignified.
And I'm just telling myself, give him the benefit of the doubt, Taylor. Give him the benefit of the doubt. And just as he keeps talking, he keeps it's just little things he says. Just keep like the red flag, the alarm goes beep, 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 like the discernment detector.
Yeah.
You guys know?
Like theological dog whistles.
Yes.
Yeah.
And during the Q&A, so he ends his presentation, and during the Q&A, it just goes off the rails. And he starts just like actually openly saying heresy.
Oh.
like questioning the like basically questioning the authority of scripture,
Mhm.
questioning everything. And I asked this question so nicely. And I know it was nice because Pastor Jack Shaw, who was the nicest, sweetest pastor in Tucson, said it was a nice way that I asked the question. Okay.
Mhm.
I basically said, "Hello, sir. My name's Taylor. I'm so grateful to come and hear from you today." And I said, "I just want to ask a clarifying question about," it was something relating to homosexuality being a sin that he had said.
Mhm.
And and he got super angry. I was
Really?
like a demon was up inside him.
Yeah.
And he and he looks at me and he basically like tells me like I'm a bigot and that like my
Ugh.
kids I probably have kids that in the youth group that don't feel comfortable talking to me, which was he has no idea who he's talking to. I was known as the youth pastor who's like half my kids was gay, right?
Yeah, the
Like
other half were practicing Crips.
yes. That was my youth group. Yeah. We discipled them all well,
That's
okay? They're
right,
doing much
that's
better.
right,
They're
yeah.
doing much better now. So there was, like, an irony lost on him there that a lot of people in the room had picked up on of, like, that was the wrong guy to say that to.
Right.
Um, but then so then it just, like, devolves into, like, pure chaos where, other guys are now jumping in, like, coming to my defense. And it was just the weirdest thing. I was so proud of the Tucson pastors. Pastor Glenn did this whole apology thing afterwards and was like, "I'm so sorry, guys. I didn't know that he had these beliefs." And
Mm.
he like owned it. And I'm still not upset at Pastor Glenn about that moment. But that was my main when I think of deconstructing, I think of that guy. And and I think he's like the poster child for that word deconstruction.
Yeah, yeah.
But then I think that kind of leads us into the bigger discussion here of what's deconstruction really about?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Geez, okay, so I'll share a story, much it's a very short story, but it's, I think, a very
I
formative.
regret I regret nothing.
I didn't imply any regret. No regret needed, my brother.
Okay. Okay.
But, gosh. But, no, I mean, so, uh, the church that I served with for, shucks, like 7, yeah, about 7 years or so, I think took a really, I would say, valuable and needed posture towards, this deconstructing group. And I know that there was, I mean, there's a lot of stories that I think had kind of like shifted the culture, but one that I just knew in particular was that my head pastor had a neighbor who, was really involved in going to church. He was an old guy at this point in time, but when he was younger, had been very involved in the church. And when he, I guess, got to like college age, he started going, to university, got into school, started learning, taking science classes and stuff. And suddenly he shows up at church one day and he's like, "Hey, this whole story of the young earth thing, I'm not quite sure, I'm not sure how that fits with like these physics classes and these courses that I'm taking. I think I'm wondering if there's another way to kind of look at things." And was basically kind of the equivalent of like the Salem witch trials of like, wow, you are rejecting everything that the Bible stands on. If there's evolution, which is, an evil thing that's created by seculars, like it just kind of like started this snowball effect. But it became very clear that any type of questioning of one, not even universal, certainly not like a primary doctrine for Christianity, was enough for him to kind of be exposed as this, like identified as a heretic, when in reality it was a very good faith question. Um,
And this was at his old
and this
church
was
that
at his
he had
church, and
this.
he left, and this
Yeah.
this was, like, his story of, like, "I used to love church. I used to feel connected with the Lord. I used to, have an affection for the scriptures, all that stuff, but then I feel like I feel like I stepped on a, a landmine, and all of a sudden I was not a part of that anymore." And so, I think both of those stories really juxtapose the
It's
idea
perfect.
of, like, uh deconstructing is so I wrote down a list. I wrote down a lot of notes for this just because I feel like there's a lot to say. First, let me give us a definition. I actually pulled this definition from a website that speaks a lot about deconstruction. I'm personally not going to name it because I don't think it's a very helpful website because of reasons that I will explain. But I do think this definition is reasonable enough. Censorship.
Is it grace to you?
No, no, no. It's the opposite. It's the opposite. That's the
Oh,
problem.
I don't
Yeah.
know any of those websites.
Yeah. I mean, I looked up deconstruction Christian definition, but
Mhm.
there we go. Deconstruction of Christian faith refers to the process of critically examining and dismantling previously held beliefs, doctrines, and practices associated with one's religious upbringing. It involves questioning and reevaluating the tenets of faith, often leading to a reformation or even abandonment of certain beliefs. This process is deeply personal and can be driven by a desire for a more authentic and individualized spirituality. So I would argue that just a lot of yeah, okay, there's a lot to get into. But um Taylor, what in your experience are some of the things, what are some of the catalysts that you've seen that kind of bring a person to deconstruct?
So I'm going to speak kind of out of both sides of my mouth right now.
Sure.
I want to put that in front. So I'm acknowledging that I'm throughout this whole recording, I'm going to say things that sound like I'm on one side of the aisle, and then I'm going to say things that sound like I'm on the other. And I actually think there's truth in both.
Yeah.
So your definition is very good. What I find very confusing, and I even this back when this whole thing was starting, I was
Mhm.
confused. I was like, isn't that just like growth? Like what's this weird label?
Mm.
And so if we're being honest, we know what causes the vast majority of people, quote, deconstructing, unquote. It's homosexuality and sexual ethics.
But is
It's
it
them,
like okay, yeah, no, that's fair. Keep
yeah,
going, keep
it's
going.
them saying essentially, and here's the spicy Taylor that you all know and love.
Mhm.
I want to sin and or support somebody who wants to sin, and my church says mean things.
Mhm.
So therefore, I'm going to do this new deconstruction thing that I found on Instagram Reels, and I'm going to abandon my faith
Yeah.
and do this thing that has a label instead of, you know, submitting to the ancient teachings of the church and the Bible.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that I've spoken to pastors who work with a lot of young adults and teenagers who would say that a good number of teenagers and young adults who start to critically analyze the faith, and especially from a more like cynical point of view, tends to be from like I think that is a thing that happens. I think I one of the reasons why I worry about only or not only but primarily look because I think like you mentioned grace to you, very well known evangelical reformed, they put out lots of books and articles. It's John MacArthur's kind of claim to fame. They would say, yeah, if you're deconstructing, it's because Satan has you in his grasp, and it's because
Mhm.
you're trying to find a way to have Jesus and carnality at the same time.
Yeah.
um
So let me say this too, in my
yeah,
personal experience, anecdotally, I, you know, when I taught the youth group, like all subjects were open for conversation.
sure.
There was nothing that I would not talk about with the kids. And I remember thinking, I had a group, we had a curriculum, but then once a month we would do big group teaching. And I remember like, okay, I'm going to use big group teaching time for 1 week. I said, how many of you guys are familiar with this term deconstructing?
Hmm.
And like one of my older kids raised their hand. They were like, I don't know. I saw it on social media.
I
And
can tell you
so,
why. I can tell you why that's the case, though.
yeah, so deconstructing for me is almost exclusively attached to like liberal soy boy millennials.
It's a gosh, it's I say this, I'm saying this, reminding myself that I'm being recorded right now, but it's kind of a white kid thing. it's like a white college kid hipster thing.
Yes.
Like it
Yes.
I don't, because like the youth
The
group that you
crackers.
worked with, yeah, the youth group that you worked with, these were a lot of kids from like very urban environment. Most of them people of color. Like they weren't having conversations about deconstruction. Now again,
No,
we're not babying the bathwatering the situation either. We're not saying that because it
I
was
know.
that now it's
I
bad.
feel like half of my kids' moms, if they were like, "Mom, I think I'm deconstructing," the mom would have like smacked them
They just
and
tell them
like
to go to the doctor. They'd be like,
or
"Well, I don't know, bring it up with your bring it up with the
no,
podiatrist the next time you
just,
see him."
they would drag him. She'd drag him down in front of me and be like, "Yell at him."
Right, right. Um, yes. So I do think that, I think naturally, like teenagers. We literally saw this with the last episode, like when Thomas led us through Ansem. Like so many of these like beloved heroes of the Christian faith throughout church history have phases where they're young and they just want to indulge and live reckless, debaucherous lives. And that's because that's what human beings tends to do. So I don't really get shocked when teenagers are like, man, Jesus seems kind of cool, but I also really want to, maybe, do something immoral with my girlfriend. Like all of that checks out to me. I think that where and I think that having those really, I think I'm gonna spill my thesis. I'm gonna spill my solution to deconstruction right now, and probably continue to reiterate it as we keep talking. The thing about deconstructing is, if you have issues, if you have frustrations, if you have difficulties, those are all fine. Review them and resolve them within the context of the church. If you're in one of those churches where they're gonna stone you to death for saying that maybe Noah's flood was local and not global, like go to a different church. Now don't go to a church that doesn't
That's
care about the
ex-
Bible. That
that's exactly right.
Like don't go to a church where they don't give a rip about what Genesis says and they're like, miracles, who cares? Virgin birth, what's that? Like I'm not saying that, but I am saying like it's important to find a Christian community where you're able to bring these types of doubts forward. And if you feel like you're being lambasted by that, don't leave and like flip off the pastor. You might need to have a conversation with the pastor and be like, "Hey, I love what you guys have offered me here, but I feel like I'm going through something and I'm not sure if the church is equipped to really meet me where I'm at." Like,
People, a lot of people in our circles have grown up going to churches that were not as conservative theologically as they became.
mhm,
So we are very familiar with kind of the flip side of deconstructing, maybe over constructing, where it's
mhm.
like, I'm a hyper Calvinist now and I need to go to Tucson Reformed Temple and receive my sacraments and only hear the pastor talk about Calvinism. And
Right.
that's essentially the other side of the coin for deconstructing. At least that person though wants to stay within the faith.
Yeah, that's like the prejudice towards like the 22-year-old kid who weightlifts a bunch and then decides he wants to be a catechumen for the Orthodox Church. It's like,
Yes.
we can call it an overcorrection. I know people who have converted to Orthodoxy and I think it's cool, but there's still something
I'm
flawed
and let
about
me
it.
just say that is still so infinitely better
Yes.
than, and that's why I think ultimately this whole deconstruction thing is it was, I guess it was, because it's not really a thing.
It
People
still
don't talk
is. It
about it
still
as,
is, dude. It is.
then it's just an excuse to leave the
Oh, no.
church.
All right, all right, all right. And here's where I'm flipping. Here's where I'm flipping
Okay. Is this
flipping
where
my
we talk about
stance.
is this where we have empathy? Is
Yes,
this
it
the
is.
okay, all right. See, I
All
told you
right.
guys I was gonna talk out of both sides of my mouth.
All right. Well, here comes the other side. Because all right, I just wrote this down. I wrote down a list. And again, the church that had served at for 7 years. One thing I loved tremendously about them is that they had a model of ministry that was essentially we had a kind of like a slogan that was like the church for the wounded, for the jaded, and for the curious. I think that the problem with saying, well, deconstruction's just a bunch of losers who just can't handle truth. Like, well, then the problem is what happens when you have someone who experiences a legitimately like abusive or painful experience in a church, which if you've been in church for any extended period of time, you've
It's
either
happened.
experienced it or you know somebody who's like, oh man, that dude was horribly mistreated, kicked out by a pastor, big ego trip. Just like, I mean, we see this stuff happening. And so I think where the empathy kicks in is like, yeah, I mean, you have to acknowledge that there are people who are going to struggle with not just Christian settings, but even Christian ideas because of what that affiliates to. Like I mean, I had a good friend a few years ago whose ex-boyfriend brought her into the faith out of being an atheist, but then he was also very abusive to her. So after they broke up, she was like, crap, I still love Jesus, but I also see Jesus as an extension of this abusive partner that I was with. So like legitimate baggage really does exist, and I don't think it's hard to find. I think it's pretty commonplace that there are people who are carrying wounds that I don't think are from Jesus, but I certainly think are from Jesus followers. I mean, shoot, like, we're getting just like this constant barrage of Christian leaders who people love and adore and admire, and then it turns out they had some, sex dungeon of children and,
Oh
and
no,
immigrants
I know.
chained
Oh,
under their $500 million mansion or
I
something.
know.
Like, dude, there's so
So
much heartbreak in the experience of being a
here's
Christian.
here's the counterpoint to that.
Mhm.
I haven't switched to the other side of my mouth yet.
Okay.
I'm gonna tell it. So let's just. So I had an abusive experience with one individual,
Mhm.
and this was the only individual from a group that I had known. And so now I am very hesitant about that whole group.
Mhm.
And we're saying we're going to say, okay, well, we're going to try to have empathy for you and understand where you're coming from. And then, well, I'm not talking about the church. I'm talking about black people.
Mhm.
So like, that's where we're like, well, turn on your brain. Obviously, not all black people are like the one bad interaction that you had. You just
Right.
go meet more black people. It's
Sure.
not hard.
Yeah.
Like, that's where like our cultural dialogue has no problem sort of saying that and calling that for being bad
Right.
logic. But
Well, but
but
here's the thing.
because
Like,
people's
okay.
little fifis were hurt. And I don't look, I don't
No,
I
no,
have
no.
had
I know,
issues
I
in
know
church,
by no
bro.
means are you saying that, but here's my question though. If a dude in your church did come up to you and say, yeah, I got the crap beaten out of me by black kids when I went to a school where I was the only white kid, and now I really wrestle with prejudiced thoughts. Like the way that you disciple him is not going to be, well, stop being racist, you big dumb idiot, right? Like you're going to help him walk into that hurt and heal
Correct.
from it, but you're not going to deny him the opportunity to feel that hurt and that it's legitimate, right?
Correct. But that's where I think there's a difference in your sort of cultural dialogue and one-on-one dialogue.
Mhm.
So obviously, for the person that's in front of me and says my last church was so abusive, I don't even know what to think about Christianity anymore. Obviously, I'm handling that pastorally,
Sure.
but I don't think I'm also going to go write a blog and be like, "Hey, if there's like a time and place to just be kind of like blunt and honest."
Yeah, yeah, but I
And
think that
yeah,
we need to be both, right? Like, I think that one of the problems is that people who want to write the blog are doing so because they don't feel like they have a pastor that they can have that conversation with. So because they feel kind of boxed out by anyone who would listen, and they think, well, if I told this person that I struggle with church because I've been hurt, they're going to say, well, you should go to church anyways. Don't you know, though, we're all going to be disappointed. Like it's just going to be invalidation after invalidation. And if we don't have a culture that lets people come forward and be hurt, then we can't be surprised that they take their complaints and huddle up with other people who also hate the church and make that their new church, basically. Like I'm not saying that there isn't a moral responsibility for the person to still seek Christ. But I also think more than anything, there's a moral responsibility for the church to offer Christ to those who have been wounded by those who represented
uh,
him poorly.
yes. And this is where, for I will say, the minority of people that got swept up in deconstructing, I do feel for them, like, you know, the friend who just expressed confusion at young earth creationism
Mhm.
and was basically like, blasted as a heretic. I feel for that. I also, though, would want to tell that person, like, "Uh, are you being unteachable?" Like, I would really want to find that out. Like, were you not, like, you do the empathizing thing and then you ask the harder questions.
There's always
Um,
more than one side to a story, of course. I
yeah,
think that's super
and
valid, but, I mean, I think
I
again,
don't
like,
know, man.
people who are raised and I think this is a thing that I don't even think either of us can empathize with necessarily. People who are raised in one church their entire life, like, they see I mean, this was something that you hear when you listen to people talk about, experiencing, I mean, I think this is obviously a much bigger thing, but it's also related. So, uh, the, the revelation about all the abuse happening in the Catholic Church, like the abuse of minors, specifically young children. Like, a lot of the reasons that those people like, you can read reports about the young men who experienced that, who obviously have no relationship with the church, and they'll be like, "Yeah, it's like God was abusing me." Because when you only see God and the Christian faith through this one kind of narrow world, then yeah, when your whole church gangs up on you, your thought isn't to be like, "Well, let me go find God in another church." Your thought is like, "No, this is the church, and this is God, and this is what that is." It's not logical, but I think,
I think you
oftentimes
are
abuse we don't experience logically, I think is a big
I
thing.
think you're right, and I think you and I are both, and I would imagine a good chunk of our listeners, we are actually incapable of a true empathy for that
Mhm.
because we don't know what that feels like. And so
Right.
I don't know, man. I just when it comes to somebody saying I experienced real abuse, which that word gets thrown around
It
now.
does, but it's an overcorrection, because back in the day, they used to say that unless you got punched in the face, it wasn't abuse, and you and I both know abuse is bigger than that.
Yes, but I also know that, like, compare it to military PTSD of, like, the Navy SEAL that had to pull out his knife and was shot 3 times and, like, brutally kill 4 attackers and limp his way to extract. That guy has a lot more things to work through than the guy who did a patrol and was scared of being shot at.
Yeah, but,
Right?
you
And
know,
so it's not
doesn't
it's
mean it's
not
not still PTSD, though.
I know. And there's an element, and I know that I'm sounding like we all just need to toughen up. But let's be honest, our generation in particular does need to toughen up. And I don't know. I just feel like for this deconstruction thing, they were just looking for a reason to leave.
See, but that's a bad faith interpretation though, bro. Like, I think,
Mm.
like, being able to take someone at their word is the first step of listening to them. Like, if someone comes into your office and you've never met them before and you've never heard their story, and the first thing they tell you about is, uh, some like let's say it's a young woman who was just divorced and she's telling you about all this abuse that she received. Like, you could tell her, "I'm not sure if I buy your story," but the thing is, you're never going to talk to her again. So you have to
Yeah, you're
start
not
with
gonna
that
say it.
posture,
Yeah.
and then, like, maybe months down the road, you're like, "Oh gosh, just let me not be a chronic liar." Like, so now ministering to her is gonna look very differently. Well, now you've at least built the trust there, but I don't think we really get anywhere by leading with doubts, especially when people are exposing something that's very human, which is that we do violence to each other.
I don't want to turn this into Taylor's counseling session, but maybe I feels betrayed because the one time I gave that one guy the benefit of the doubt, it turned out that I was 100% right and my immediate discernment was 100% correct.
Mhm. Which is valid. That's super valid. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, dude, I personally feel like, someone who also, um like, my propensity to give the benefit of the doubt is often used against me sometimes, where
Yeah.
I'm just like, "Oh, man, I become gullible." This is why homeless dudes, when I went to the U of A, used to walk up to me and spill these stories about, like, "Oh, my car broke down the road, and I'm visiting from Alaska. I just need 20 bucks." And I'm like, "Here you go, man."
Go, bro.
Like,
Good luck getting back to Alaska.
that's right, on your beat up truck around
I
the corner.
How familiar are you with the Duggar story? Like
Not
the
very, not very.
21 kids and counting?
Mhm.
So
Wasn't
that
it a
family,
TV show, and then it found out that the
yes.
dad was abusing?
There's certain allegations of different kinds of abuse, nothing like sexual or whatever. But
Okay, okay.
uh my wife has read, I don't remember which sister's book, and a couple of them go on podcast. So they grew up in like the most crazy fundamental church in the world. And instead of deconstructing and blaming God and the church for everything, they have went and found uh the true church and are like healthy Christians
Mhm.
now. And so I'm just saying, man,
But I think
like,
that could be a form of deconstruction. They didn't leave, like, I don't think deconstruction is leaving the church. I think it's an analysis. It's
I
challenging
don't
your assumptions.
I did not find in during this whole time period, and I've not seen anyone use the word deconstruction
Mhm.
and then land in a healthy place. So
I
that's where I
don't know.
think
Yeah, okay.
you want to validate the feelings. And so here we go. I think it's Alyssa Childers. One of them's, I didn't make this up, but they use the
Mhm.
word disentangling
Yeah.
because it acknowledges that there's a lot of pain and hurt and confusion that can come from church and from pastors and from fellow Christians. And it acknowledges that that does have to be worked through. And so we're going to disentangle that. And it doesn't just like jump on board with, like, you already said it, the white millennial trend of looking
Mhm.
for an excuse to do whatever sin you want.
Right. Bad faith
And
interpretation.
I
God.
look, man, I
You've got
know, I know,
you've been talking out of one side of your mouth this entire time,
I
which I
know.
appreciate. I don't even
I
mind it. I get it. I get it.
I wanna be more I wanna get there, I do. My little heart is hardened.
I know,
Dude,
bro.
I'm
I know.
traumatized. Maybe I need to deconstruct after what happened to me in that one past his lunch.
I remember. Here's the thing. So my wife was probably a good example of what you've shared about with the Duggars. Like, her church background growing up was extremely fundamentalist. I think you could argue that there was probably some sexism baked into it. Just a very over-involved pastor, kind of cult of personality. Just a very unhealthy church.
I don't wanna be racist when I ask, is it one of the Spanish ones?
Yeah, no, it was.
Oh, then okay. The only reason I ask is because I know exactly what that all the women wear
Yep.
dresses, like, yeah,
Down to their ankles. But this was
yeah.
like, it was like, they were Unitarian, like, they didn't, believe in the Trinity, but they only believed in, like, the divinity of Christ, like, but they didn't really correlate the divinity of it was very strange, very pro-Israel, like, just like it's like they just, reached into a hat of, like, random issues, and they're like, "These are our most important
Yeah,
things." Yeah, very
I'm familiar.
Pentecostal, very charismatic in that way. But yeah, like, so I don't know if my wife would define her experience as deconstruction, but I mean, if we're defining it as the process of examining and dismantling previously held beliefs, she 100% did that. Because if she didn't, she would probably not be working right now. She definitely wouldn't have any long skirts in her closet. Like, she has examined those views, not just of, like, culturally, but even theologically, and because of that, she's come to find Christ.
Yeah. But the problem, John Simon, with that definition is then that's a natural part of Christianity. So
Correct.
I
Correct.
guess what you could do is we could all co-opt it and say, I deconstructed and I became more reformed, or I deconstructed and I became congregationalist. And we could co-opt it, and maybe that's actually a healthier response.
Well, because that's the thing. Like it's a basic tenet of reformed of the Reformation. Semper reformanda, always reforming. So yeah, I think the idea of like analyzing, especially, and I think it's especially important for like younger people because we don't pick the church. We don't get to pick the family that we're raised in. We don't get to pick the church that we're raised in, and oftentimes it takes some like reasonable reflection and analysis of those types of presuppositions that we've been raised in, um, to just grow as a person. But my thing is, where I don't, and this is where I'm speaking out of the other side of my mouth, where I don't like the term deconstruction is it when you think deconstruction, you think dudes like Josh Harris and you think like Rhett and Link, the YouTubers, who I like, but I'm bummed about their whole leaving Jesus thing. Like deconstruction always seems to seem like uh well, first and foremost, it's individual. It's I have to find my individual spiritual role, place, relationship with Christ. And I'm like, where does the church fit into this? Where does the historical church fit into this? Like, you know, when you mentioned your dude at that one talk who was like beefing uh with like whether the scriptures are inspired. It's like that's we've been believing that for 2000 years. Don't
Yeah.
deconstruct so much that you're abandoning core tenets of the church. Like we've been about this stuff for a long
Well,
time.
that's just what's so weird to me is because in that room, and that guy was like a poster child for, they had like a vineyard that they would take people to and like
Interesting.
go
Yeah.
out on boats and just do like upper middle class activities with these people that are deconstructing.
Right.
And that group of pastors is very ecumenical compared to the other group of pastors.
Mhm.
And so like, but I remember thinking, so obviously I don't use the term apostle to refer to anybody alive today, but Apostle Jamie from Tucson, who is he's a good man. He's a good man. We believe some different things, but that's his title, Apostle Jamie.
Mhm.
And I was even thinking, this dude is lucky Apostle Jamie's not here. Because
Mhm.
Apostle Jamie don't play. And like he would have called him out like on the spot.
Right.
And so to get into your point of don't just abandon everything, man.
Yeah.
Like that was if there was a room to be safe in talking about it, that was the room. And
Sure.
like even he lost the plot with that group.
Yeah. And I think the thing is for me, um, I'm 33 right now. Yeah, I guess I'm moving more towards middle age than a young man. I still feel like a young
Oh,
man. I can
don't
still,
say that. You're
jump
young.
without my knees hurting too bad.
We
Uh,
are young.
stop it, stop it. Um, but like I've experienced church hurt before. I've experienced the disappointment of having a leader, both that I knew personally and that I knew kind of culturally, who completely fell off and how painful that was. Like I've experienced like disillusionment with the faith or just getting frustrated with where I feel like cultural Christianity's at. Like, and I think what I would say to anyone listening who's experiencing that stuff is it's okay to feel those things. Like my whole thing is like if 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 you're like sitting outside the temple like watching people trading like they're basically throwing poker chips around, like what made Jesus flip the tables. Don't leave Jesus. Like he's the one who put that tension and that frustration in you. If you're looking at Christian leaders who are hypocrites or who are like not good ambassadors of Christ, like Jesus put that desire in you. So you don't need to leave Jesus to find Jesus. Like just find one of the many solid churches where they will help you walk through that stuff and experience it. But don't leave the flock to yeah, don't leave the flock to do that. Like, deconstructing is
Yes.
good. Just find a good Christian pastor to talk to and process it together.
Yeah, disentangling.
Yeah. Disconstructing.
Disconstruct. Dude, I don't know what it is. It's something about somebody smarter in the comments will probably explain what I'm feeling better than I am, and
Mhm.
that's good. So we want that. I There's just something about jumping onto cultural movements that have sinister roots that
Sure.
I don't like. And I would say the roots of deconstruction are sinister. Because like you said, the people at the forefront, Josh Harris, Rhett and Link, the list goes on and on. They didn't come back.
No.
They deconstructed and burned it down.
And they kinda made a
So
brand out of it too.
and they made a brand out of it. And it's the
Yeah.
hipster white millennial thing to do.
Mhm.
And they didn't go back to church. They didn't find a new church. Meanwhile, I would say someone who has a very traumatizing story, like the Duggar girls,
Mhm.
who were like, I go to a small, healthy church now and am a part of that flock.
Yeah.
Like, I-
Nobody wants to buy
if
that book. That book's not gonna become a New York Times bestseller. How I went from an
I
abusive
think it,
church to a healthy church.
I think it, I think it might have
Oh, wait,
for
really?
her.
Oh, that's
I think
actually the best news we've covered all day.
it might be. I'm not sure. I'm not gonna poor Brandy's sick, or I won't go holler at her and ask.
Okay.
But because what's the name of the book? But point is, they didn't take the title deconstructing, to my knowledge.
Sure. Sure.
They didn't jump onto that bandwagon. I don't know. It's almost like the BLM stuff,
Yeah.
right? Like anybody with two eyes can look at Black Americans and go, "Oh, maybe something's not entirely fair here,"
Right.
right?
Yeah.
But
It's there's a lot of there's association, there's implications, it's the implication,
yes.
right?
Right.
Um,
It's the implication.
so I get that, and I don't think, again, like, I don't wanna be wishy-washy with these terms because I personally don't want a Christian who I love to Google how to deconstruct and get a bunch of terrible resources.
You
But
said something super good when we were talking on the phone,
Mhm.
planning this out.
What'd I say?
And John said, what'd I say? Tell me. John said that he goes, the thing about deconstruction is that I don't know if I would want somebody who uses that word teaching at my church.
And it's true. And it's true.
Because, like, there's space for, there's a world where you and I will probably be pastors
Mhm.
again someday, right?
When the
Like,
Lord calls.
when the Lord calls, we will be pastors again. And I do think I would be totally down having a Wednesday night group where we work through people with get a group together of people that have church hurt and kind of help them process.
That sounds like a
I
dream. I would love that. Yeah.
Right.
But we're not
And
gonna
like
call it
use
Deconstruction Wednesdays.
absolutely under
That's
no
right.
circumstances.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know.
We need
I
to,
don't know,
like, get a
man.
sound bite that plays like a little sound when we've realized that we're on the same page again. Just like a
Yeah,
ding.
you and I are always on the same
I
page.
know. We just like to explore different sides of the coin, but the
We
coin's the
do, I
same.
know.
Yeah.
I think it's because like my bent, like we all have like that little sinful tug, right?
Right.
Like just to put in the most simple terms possible, like I'm tugged to the right
Mhm.
and you're tugged to the left.
Well, it's our environments, dude. Like, I mean, I
Yeah.
feel like theologically and even in many political ways, I feel very right. But I mean, as long as I've known, my family's left, a lot of my friends have been left, my high school was left, my city is left. Like, I'm I'm a softie.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm a millennial.
And you well, and I'm the one that's surrounded by like hyper conservative immigrants in the hyper conservative pocket of California
Right.
at a
Yeah.
hyper conservative church.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
here's the fun thing. This is a good way to land the plane.
All right.
So I would imagine we're gonna get a little spicy here that our
Okay.
circles had different reactions when Charlie Kirk was shot.
Yeah.
So
That should be our
my
episode.
circles, and I don't want us to share what we think about that. That's a whole. I mean, obviously,
Whole other episode. Yeah.
anyone getting shot is terrible.
Of
But
course.
I remember because remember it was on a Wednesday,
Mhm.
and I had band practice that night, and I had to go into Pastor Taylor mode. at band practice because people were, like, shook. And I would imagine that, like, in your circle, you might have had to go into Pastor John mode for a completely different reason.
Yep.
Yep.
It's just, I mean, the people who I walk with love Jesus. They really do. I have no doubt about that. And they're not liberal Christians. They're not progressive Christians, but yeah, they are. There is a noticeable pocket of Christians who hold conservative political and theological views who are not MAGA Christians, and yeah,
Yeah,
that just creates different sensibilities, behind
it
what you
does.
value about,
And so
government and faith and all that.
when somebody uses that term deconstruction, I think, like, it is good to remember that there's still a person hurting behind that.
Mhm.
I'm
Yeah,
not talking I'm not talking with heretic pastor guy with his little vineyard. I'm not talking with that guy
right.
when that happens. I'm talking to somebody who has real feelings. And honestly, if we're being honest, that guy
Yeah.
probably has some real feelings and some things
And
that
yeah,
he
dude, I
needs to
mean,
work through.
if he is brave enough to stand in front of a bunch of pastors and talk boldly, like he just know, like he's just like everyone's going to be on board with this. Like he has to feel comfortable enough in a church, but also hurt enough to do something that, yeah, it's not completely
Yeah.
kosher. But yeah, I have a motto. I read this or heard this somewhere. I think I heard it in a rap song actually, but it basically goes like this: Every man should try to learn before he dies what he's running from and to and why. The problem with deconstruction in most ways, in most things, is that all it is, it's running from something. It's only about running from something. And my thing is, if you're a Christian, even if you're a baby Christian, wounded Christian, jaded Christian, traumatized Christian, the thing we're running to must always be Christ. Whether we're running from that hurt, running from that trauma, we have to be running towards Christ. And to run towards Christ out of the church context is darn
Uh-huh.
near impossible. Um,
Yeah, and I mean, there's ways to find a new church.
yeah, yeah,
I think it's probably really easy in today's day and age, and I would hope, I don't think this is true, but I would hope that every church's pastor would understand that maybe someone has reached a point of conviction that they need to go worship somewhere else
yeah, yeah.
and, like, be gentle and understanding about that.
Hmm.
'Cause I think if someone came to me and was like, "Taylor, I think we need to baptize babies," and I'm gonna go, "Let me introduce you to my Presbyterian friend."
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think if we have a love, and this is kind of the whole moral of our show. It's helping Christians see the grand family tree to which we belong. Like the problem is
Yes.
some people, when they go to Second Street Baptist Church from the day that they're born to the age of 29, and then they have a problem, and then they're suddenly like, God is against me. It's like, no, we need to see that the Church of Christ exists way beyond the walls of what we're raised in. And we also don't think you should just leave a church haphazardly. That could be a cool chump talk to do about when to leave a church and how. Because
Mm.
really, it's going to be you probably shouldn't, but if you need to, be very careful. Because we shouldn't. I don't know. There's a cafeteria approach that we have to church sometimes, and we hop around, and that could be dangerous too. So
Well, I
everything
think
is
I don't I
nuanced.
w I don't know how many of our listeners would struggle with this,
I don't
but
know.
there's a there's a very consumeristic approach to church in general.
Yeah.
So, you know,
Can I tell you one more thing
what
I'm really mad about right now?
yeah.
Um, you're sitting by a window that looks like it's kinda settled, and I've got a lot of light coming in, and I look like a very white man. I'm not saying I don't wanna look like a white man. I am a half white man. I'm upset that I look so bright and you look a little more darkened.
I look European.
You got that olive tint, bro. You look Greek.
Oh,
You look Greek,
yes. Not
Taylor.
normally, though.
Dele dwed vos.
Yeah. I went to I visited a black church on Saturday night.
Nice.
I did not like I sounded like Trump there. I did not like this assignment that was given to me because it
Was it
felt
go to a
icky.
black church?
No, it was be a mystery worshiper. And I'm like,
Oh, like a mystery shopper? That's
I
kinda
don't
weird.
don't like that.
That's a little
But
weird.
Mount Zion, which I know the pastor, I know a lot of people on staff actually, and I have some friends that go there. I went to their Saturday night service and I walked in, and I know I've never been to the church, but I know enough about the church to know they're going to be fine.
Mhm.
They might have been a little more dressed up, but I walked in wearing a pink Hawaiian shirt,
Oof.
khaki shorts, and flip-flops.
Mm.
They were so sweet to me.
That's
They
good.
were so sweet to me, but I guarantee you some of them were like, "What is this white boy
Here's the thing.
doing here?"
I grew up going to a black church. It was for the first 10 years of my church experience, it was all within a black church. Rising Star Missionary Baptist Church here in Tucson. And I just need to say, we should all strive to feel as loved as the white guy who walks into an all black church, because they're never like, "Oh, what's this gringo doing here?" It's always like, "Oh, everyone is welcome.
Yeah.
Come on in, brother. How are you? Come on here. Here,
Yes.
let me show you around," and stuff like that. I mean, meet the pastor. Come on, let's meet the pastor.
That's right.
It's nothing but love.
Oh, dude, deacons were coming up to me. They sat down with me. They handed me the guest card. They were like, "Here, fill this out."
Yeah.
And I actually was able to report to Pastor Kennedy. I saw him today at the event, and he's very well-respected pastor in the area. I was able to tell Pastor Kennedy, I was like, "Your people were awesome."
Yeah.
And he was like, "That's good to hear." Because the Saturday service is like their small kind of little off thing. They have giant services on Sunday.
Sure.
Long story short, I did something different,
Good for you,
You
man.
talked about being black. That triggered it, actually. That's what it was.
All right, gang. Well, thanks guys so much for listening. Please drop us comments. This is a topic with a lot of nuance. I'm sure we didn't even scratch the surface. We could talk for a long time about this, but we'd love to know your thoughts. Let us know what you think. Let us know, if you've experienced big changes in how you think or approach the faith, or if you've stayed the same since the day you were born. Who knows? Thanks, guys. That wasn't meant to be really critical. I think that sounded really
No, it was hilarious. Maybe you stayed the same. I don't know.
Maybe you're the same. I don't know. All right, whatever. Thank you, guys. Love you guys.
Bye-bye.